What's up, everybody? Another edition of Bears Over Beers, powered by Second City Gridiron. It's been a while. We haven't done a show since the Bears bowed out of the playoffs to the Los Angeles Rams. It's Ryan Drosty. It's Brian Orenchuck. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Doing great, my man. It's been a great season. Obviously, did not end the way that we wanted. That game, it was within our reach, but we came out short. It was still a great game either way. Broke some records, viewership records, and the whole season was kind of like that. Just an exceptional season. Caught a lot of attention, and did a lot of things that nobody thought that we could do. So overall, it's been a great season. Had a great time with you on here. As I've said multiple times, man, this Wednesday night kind of gathering, get together with you and our listeners has really been a highlight of my season, my weeks, and kind of bittersweet to be turning the page on this season. But we do have one more show, a lot to go over and a lot to look forward to. So excited to wrap it up with you, man, and see what you got drinking tonight.
I mean, it's made what was a really fun season even more fun, doing the show full time this year and hanging out with you, of course, Brian, but then all of you, whether you're joining us live or on the podcast feeds. It's been a really successful season for this show. We've experienced, a lot of growth, loved meeting everyone in the chat or interacting on social, and we're going to keep it rolling here in the off season. It's not going to be a weekly show in the off season, but we are planning on doing more shows than we did in the off season last year. So you'll want to make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, that you're subscribed on all the podcast platforms. You never miss an episode, and so you don't miss, an episode of any other great shows here on Second City Gridiron. And Brian, I just want to say off the top, it's been a whirlwind couple of weeks because we were going to do a show that Wednesday right after the playoff game. And then I was really sick. You had been battling something before that. And then I got you might even be able to tell I'm still a little stuffy. It's been 2 weeks. But I came down with a really terrible kind of cold and flu that's going around right now. It'll last for a while. And so I felt like I had like 103 temperature that week. And I felt like I couldn't do a show, unfortunately. And also I was really trying to get better because that weekend I took my wife to Vegas for her birthday. And I don't think I ever talked about it on air. I was really hoping I'd be able to watch the Bears in the conference championship in Las Vegas. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. But I did go to Vegas. It got better enough to go. I was definitely still feeling it, but had a great time in Vegas. And, now here we are finally wrapping up the season. And I think we're going to look ahead, of course, to the offseason. We're going to talk maybe a little bit about some of the stadium drama that's been going on this week. But, of course, before we get to that, we got to talk about our beers. And I think we both brought something a little extra special for this episode. So, Brian, you told me last night, we had a little meeting with our bosses, and you told me you had something planned, a good beer plan. So I've been thinking about it ever since. Tell me, I can't wait any longer.
Well, my man, technically, it is no beer. I am going with the bourbon tonight in our rocks glass, the Bears Over Bourbon. Yes. And for the show, I have a bottle of Booker's. Now, I got this bottle before our playoff game, and was really hoping that our boy Austin Booker would show up in a big way for us, and I would save it for them. But alas, he didn't quite have as impactful of a performance. And a beer shot glass here to make sure I'm getting proper pour.
Oh yeah, nice.
And I'm gonna do a 2-glass pour tonight. But yeah, I don't think I've done bourbon on the show this whole year. So that's why this is a special one for me, obviously. And kind of duped you on that one. You didn't quite think I was going the bourbon route, but
I didn't.
But I've not gotten to show everybody this glass, so I got this for my anniversary, and if you haven't gotten it, it's awesome. I know you've got one yourself, and
yes,
so that's what I'll be sipping on tonight. What about you, man?
Absolutely beautiful. Well, I do have our pint glass, so we can keep shilling our merch here. Here it is. Of course, the Bears Over Beers pint glass. We sold a few of these and the rocks glass this year, so thank you to everyone who's been buying one of those. You can find them at the link in the description here. But also, just supporting the channel in general, Brian, and tweeting us your pictures and drinking out of the glass. It's been really cool this year. But I was at the beer store tonight. In fact, I was browsing the beers, taking my time. I haven't been there in a while. And right as I was browsing, I got a text message from Mr. Brian Orenchuk, and he's like, "We're still doing the show tonight, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm picking out a good beer right now." And then I ran across it. One of my all-time favorite beers. It only comes out once a year. Now, this is a beer that you basically had to get there within an hour of it releasing every year, or you couldn't get it. I mean,
Let
this
me guess. Let me guess before you share. But keep going. You have to get it once a year. You have to get there early.
you had to get there early. It would sell out within an hour, and that was it for the year. And now, like the craft beer boom is starting to slow down a bit, and it's more plentiful. Now, they didn't have that many of them. It came in a 4-pack of tall boys. They used to come in bottles. But I saw it on the shelf and I could hardly believe my eyes. And I had to buy it. I knew that was the beer for tonight. Do you want to take a guess what it is?
Is it Dogfish Head 120?
No, but that is a great guess. I do have one of those in my fridge though,
Oh,
which
nice.
I think that's 15% when you buy it, and
Right.
mine's been in there a couple of years, so it's probably like 18%. But here it is, Bell's Hop Slam.
Okay, nice.
Yep, this is a classic,
Nice.
kind of a honey flavor to it. 10, as
Yeah.
you can see right there, 10%.
Yeah.
Um,
That looks great.
it is so good. Have you ever had this one?
No, I've not.
Yeah, it's
No.
a fantastic beer. Kalamazoo, Michigan. We talked about Bell's, I think, when we had Bears Fan of the Year on a
Mhm.
couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, great Michigan brewery. Let's see. I was gonna see if there's a description. Yeah, it just says double India Pale Ale brewed with honey. Yeah, this has got to be fresh. I mean, it had to have just came in. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to. I mean, when I first got into craft beer, this was one of those that like everybody seeked out, and you could only get that once a year. So I would always make, I'd be asking at the liquor store, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? I remember even, boy, this is probably 10 or 12 years ago. I remember being at work when it would release and calling my retired dad to go to the liquor store to get it for me, and he would. And that would be like the only way I could get it. But now, yeah, it's pouring it out right now. It's a little bit easier to get.
Yeah, I got to try that. I've not had that one. I don't even know if I've seen it, but now I'll be on the lookout for it.
It's foaming quite a bit.
This
yeah.
one, 124 proof. So this is I don't quite know if it's cask strength or what, but Booker does it strong. So we'll get into the edge position at some point on the show tonight. But this will definitely take the edge off. Cheers, my man, to a great season. It's been an honor.
Yes, you too. I got a lot of head on this glass right now, so I'm going to take my first swig out of the can while that settles down.
Did you ever try the old nose grease trick?
Oh yeah, back in the college days with beer pong and all that.
I feel like it still works, even though we're older and more wise.
It probably does work now, but now I don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, did I really used to do that? Just random glasses with people playing beer pong back in the day. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so on beer pong, I used to love beer pong. It was one of my favorite things to do, as I'm sure everybody. But I quickly learned how disgusting it was to be drinking the beers after the ball was going all over it. I don't know if you've partied in some of the places partied in, but I mean, it was disgusting. So I quickly realized, okay, let's just put water in these things, have our own drink, and we drink our drink when the cup goes. Keep the water in. Nobody's got to get, contagious. But
yeah, well, speaking of that, I guess probably like the nose grease trick was probably more just kegs in general that you'd break that out more so than beer pong. Now that you mentioned that, but yeah, that was also pretty gross, wasn't it? Because I mean, I was in some divey basements playing beer pong back in college. The ball was flying all over.
And I got to say, it probably took me a good 3 or 4 years before I started to be like, what am I actually doing here? This is disgusting. So, just golly, man, young and stupid.
Yeah.
But,
well, if you guys are drinking, and hey, it doesn't have to be alcoholic. If you're drinking soda, whatever, juice, let us know in the chat. We love to get interactive. Let us know what you're drinking tonight. Like I said, we're gonna talk about an abundance of topics, and then I think this off season we'll make the show very loose when we meet. Sometimes we might meet and talk about free agency or the draft.
All right.
Sometimes we might get together, talk about Bears history, maybe a topic from the past, something like that. So we're gonna give you guys lots of different flavors in the off season to keep tuned in to Bears Over Beers. And Brian, before I go any further, I do want to give a shout out to a new sponsor of the show this week. And so let's talk about that real quick here. So, Brian, you know what I've been getting really into watching lately?
Hmm.
The international version of Netflix. If you get on the international version of Netflix, you can get access to different shows, different live events. And the way that I do that, now, of course, there's the issue. Technically, these shows are not available here in the United States, but the sneaky workaround is our new sponsor, and that is Surfshark VPN. And I personally, this is not part of this, not part of what they sent over here as a sponsor. I have been using Surfshark for a number of years. It's my favorite VPN. I have the extension right here on my Google Chrome browser. I'm looking at it right now. Super easy to use. If you don't know what a VPN is, it's a virtual private network. So it allows me to mask my real IP address, and then you can replace it with another IP address anywhere in the world. So, it's like I click that button and I can say that I'm in the UK, and the internet will think I'm in the UK or France or Germany or wherever. Okay. They've got locations all over the world. So essentially meaning I can pretend to be in that country with just a few clicks of the mouse. And just like that, you're able to stream content that's geo restricted to that host country as often as you'd like. Yeah. It's very, very useful. Now, another thing, like if you've ever been browsing the internet, you might have wondered how much of your personal information is floating around online. Every single click, every scroll, every Google search, all of it can be log tracked and sold. With Surfshark, all that data stays yours. So when I'm connected to mine, Surfshark encrypts everything I do online. So even my internet provider or nosy advertisers can't see what I'm doing. So it's like finally being able to shut the blinds on your digital life, total privacy control. And honestly, it's kind of a relief knowing you can browse freely without constantly worrying who's watching and then what kind of ads that's going to trigger later on. So Surfshark has servers in over 100 countries, meaning that, yes, I can access content from almost any country in the world. Like I said, that's useful at home and also when I'm traveling. I can use it to stream. You guys know I'm into wrestling. I host Top Rope Nation. I can stream WWE PLE events that are internationally broadcast on Netflix using Surfshark. That's been super useful for that other gig of mine. It's like I'm teleporting to those countries, and suddenly those live sports are right there waiting for me on Netflix. They wouldn't be if it was in the United States, as far as anyone's concerned. So it's such a simple trick. Genuinely makes tuning in for extra content or even traveling and getting your local content if you're going abroad feel a lot better. Surfshark also has antivirus. We tend to think viruses are a laptop problem, but they can hit phones, they can hit tablets, anything. And that's why Surfshark Antivirus is also a smart add-on. It's built right into the app. It runs quietly in the background, protects against malware, Trojan horses, all the nasty stuff that can sneak in from downloads or any dodgy websites. So I like that I don't need a separate antivirus subscription. Surfshark just handles that. One less thing to worry about. One more reason I feel properly covered online. All right. So here's what we can offer you with Surfshark today. And so you can start using it immediately. So they have a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee the minute you sign up. And the offer we have it's a great deal. You can secure your privacy with Surfshark. You can go to surfshark.com/gridiron, or you can use the code gridiron at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Now, look, man, I told you guys, I've been a paying customer of Surfshark for years. I experimented with a lot of VPNs, and I found that this was the best with the fastest servers. I have paid full price since day one. I wish I had this offer, Brian. I wish I had the offer from the beginning. I buy it usually with the yearly subscription. But yeah, man, just go to surfshark.com/gridiron or just go and use the code gridiron at checkout. You'll get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. I would highly recommend it. It's a great service.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, anyways, check that out. Open up Netflix International and see all the bonus content you get on there. And Brian, um, how do we want to wrap this up with the playoff game? I mean, it's been a couple weeks. Do we have anything we want to talk about? I mean, to me, generally, my thought was like, obviously, we should have won. The Bears won the stat sheet going away. We got a much better performance out of our defense than we could have ever imagined. You know, if you would have thought you would limit the high flying Rams offense to what we did on that night, you would have thought the Bears would have won. Fortunately, the offense, didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Everyone's talked about that last play. It looked like we were going to win in overtime. We're at midfield. Maybe, we should have gone for smaller chunks, but that route to DJ was open, and what happened, and the season ended. But it also, in some ways, it just feels like this is just the start. We could have gone further this year, but I still feel like this is a start of something special, and next year will be even better than this year was.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And, one of the things that stuck out to me, not just in that game, but last few games, was our run game did not quite pop the way that we had been used to. So curious to see, what the remedy for that is moving forward. I think having Theo, he was kind of lacking in pass protection at left tackle. They put Ozzie in there. All of a sudden, our run game was doing pretty decent. And then obviously we had Tooney move to left tackle for that playoff game. I did think, the O-line helped. They seemed to hold up pretty good. But we had a few drops. I think Colson Loveland had his worst game of the season. And ultimately it was a game I felt like we could have won. I felt like we could hang with them. And like you said, I think it sets us up for an even more exciting 2026, and especially if we can add a couple more key pieces, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But overall, can't be disappointed. I loved having 2 home playoff games, man. Like, if any of you guys were there, let us know. And I gotta say, on the record, I love the blue on blue jerseys. I love them.
I always liked them. I'm glad
too.
the curse is over now.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
yeah, the self-made curse
Yeah.
by the fans. But yeah, no, I'm excited to kind of review the season with you and kind of go over our highs and lows of the season.
Yeah.
I think that'll be fun. But, as far as the playoff game is concerned, I think it's great experience for the likes of Caleb and, our young team. But it was one that we could have won. I feel like they know that they could have won that game. And our coaches, coaching staff, to be able to go through that as a unit with our guys. But this is going to be a season. It's going to be a season hard to forget. There's going to be some turnover, and that's going to be tough. Obviously, more so for the players and coaches. We've already lost a few coaches. We're certainly going to lose some players. So that's one of those things. It's a final, a final destination type of experience, the NFL football season for these teams. And last time these guys are going to be together. So luckily we've got a really nice, promising young core, but we've got some question marks, and we'll get to that here on this show. But as far as you are concerned, looking back, what would you say was your greatest highlight, or the high point, if you will, of the season?
Ooh, man, that's tough because, like, we're doing these shows weekly, and obviously the way the season started was we blew a game against the Vikings we should have won. And then we got crushed by Detroit. So everyone was down, but I think we were even on the show at the time, Brian, saying like everyone needs to settle down. There's plenty of time to get this thing right. And boy, they blew the doors open against Dallas. And then right after that, like the fourth quarter comebacks kind of started with, what happened in Vegas and that last second field goal. And it was cool to get revenge in Washington. Man, I don't know. I think, you could point to Green Bay, obviously, but that stuff happens so late in the year too. I mean, I think the ultimate highlight is ending Green Bay season, because the way that rivalry or lack of rivalry had gone for so many years, and then we split with them the last 2 seasons. The 2 games that we lost come down to the final play, just like the games that we won. And we both felt like going into that playoff game, if the Bears could win that game, it would swing the momentum of the rivalry. Because yeah, I mean, splitting is nice, but nobody really gets the upper hand. When you send a team home in the playoffs, I mean, how many wins does that account for? I mean, that's like winning more than one game, especially when it's your rival.
Yeah.
And we, all these years later, maybe getting now they won the Super Bowl that year, so it's not an equal comparison, but getting a little bit of revenge for losing the NFC title game at Soldier Field, 15 years ago, that was also nice. I definitely feel like Green Bay's not the boogeyman anymore after the last 2 years and sending them home in the playoffs. So I think ultimately beating them in the playoffs is the biggest highlight of the year. But if we look at regular season, I think it might be that Philly game just because that was like the most complete game all year. It was a game we all thought we were going to lose at the beginning of the year. And we go into Philly on Black Friday with a huge audience and like dominated the game on all fronts. I think that was maybe the peak of the regular season.
Yeah. So just so you listeners know, we did not collaborate beforehand and discuss our answers.
No.
And I didn't know you were going to go there, but Philly is my spot too. Just that was kind of the culmination for me of us arriving.
Yeah.
Right. We, as you talked about, we did the schedule prediction, which we'll do again this offseason. And not pulling any punches here, but we correctly predicted the record.
Hold on, I still have the screenshot saved. Here it is.
You can
notice Brian and I had 11-6. That was the night the schedule came out. Look at the screenshot title, May 14th, 2025.
Yep.
We got it right. Listen to Bears over Beers. What can I say?
But all of us picked the Eagles' loss.
Yes. Yeah.
And we at that point we hadn't really beaten anyone. The Commanders turned out to be kind of mid, and then we beat the Steelers, and that kind of got people's attention. But the Eagles were the real test, and for us on Black Friday in Philadelphia to get that game, and like you said, it was our most complete game. So that was the prime glimpse as to what this team could do. So that was my highlight of the regular season.
Also, the last game, the run game, like really dominated. We didn't have a 100-yard rusher the rest of the year after that game, but that was the game where our offensive line just tossed them around like the whole game. Anunga had 130 yards rushing in that game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I would say, it's tough because the as far as a low point. Like you said, the Detroit game was pretty low just because that was an epic beatdown. I mean, they freaking put up 52 on us, right? Like that's unacceptable. But it was week 2. We have such a new team. Our offensive line is brand new together, and we knew that was going to turn around. We knew Ben was going to, get the guys in working order as the season progressed. So that wasn't quite the low for me. To me, it's between that first loss to Green Bay because F Green Bay, and we were coming off that high. But I really feel like because that game ended, that game, we still had a chance in that one. And I was confident even in that loss. I feel like the San Fran game might have been the low, because when you think about that game, Sunday Night Football with serious number 1 seed implications on the line. And we start that game with a pick 6. And then we lose because our defense lets up 42 points, even though our offense scores 38. So I feel like that for me was a regular season low, just because, they got my expectations, my hopes up so high at that point, only to, kind of let us down. The last week of the season also was not cool. But that San Fran game, that kind of stung a little bit for seeding whatnot. Obviously, it didn't end up mattering because we had clinched the division, but we could have had the 1 seed, and it just would have been nice. I don't know. It's tough, man. This is a season. Gosh, man, every season in the last 20 years, we could pick five lows that were in the running, but This year was tough. None of those were detrimental to my
Yeah.
health or my marital status or any of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll take these lows over anything, but it is kind of tough to say. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a record of 11-6, there's not that many low points.
Exactly.
You're always going to look to the loss of the rivals at Green Bay, crowd chanting the Bears still suck. Well, we
Yeah.
got we got the final laugh there.
Opening weekend too. That was low.
Yeah,
All off season for that game. We talked about how sucky it was to wait for the Monday night game after we
yeah.
all, and that sucked. But
Yeah, I mean, I think we expected to lose the one at Detroit, just everything going in that
yeah,
game, them wanting revenge for Ben and all of that. I mean, it was a huge beatdown. That really sucked, but I kind of expected that to be an L. I did
yeah,
not expect to lose to Minnesota. I mean, we don't definitively know what JJ McCarthy's going to be yet, but going into that game, I was like, there's no way he should win this game.
right.
Right now, he's not good. He might end up being good. He's not right now. And that being his first start, like that sucked. A primetime game at home to lose to him the way that they did. And then like McCarthy ended up getting like player of the week for basically one good quarter. That was it was, looking back, that was a little humiliating, at the time. But I don't know. I might also look to that Baltimore game just because, we were going up against Tyler Huntley and
Yeah,
it seemed like a very winnable game, obviously, and we lose 30-16. I mean, sure, it's a road game, but you're not playing Lamar. It was very winnable, and we lost 30-16. I mean, the division games are always going to rank higher with disappointment. I think I was more disappointed in that Baltimore game than San Fran because, like we lost San Fran, and the one seed was there, so that part of it was disappointing. But I also felt like San Fran was a good team. They've got a great coaching staff. It was going to be a tough game. And our offense looked really good in that game.
yeah.
It's just we
That
couldn't
was
stop anything. Caleb threw for 330 yards.
right.
Burden had a huge game. So I wanted to win that one, but I would say like I felt like the Baltimore game was one that really got away. I mean, we had won 4 straight going into that game.
Yeah,
I'll go with Baltimore. I think that was a game looking back we should have won.
yeah. Okay.
But yeah, man. I mean, it's you mentioned the coaching staff changes, the front office changes. This is just something that happens when you have a good team, and it's something that on one hand we're gonna have to get used to it. On the other hand, it's a reason why good coaches are going to want to keep coming here because we're not holding them back from moving on and in bettering their career. Like Ben has said, he wants these guys to get jobs like that and to get
Right.
opportunities. And so like any hot coach that's on the rise that sees themselves climbing the ladder, like Ben Johnson's a guy they're going to want to work for because they have seen him elevate people from his staff. And, soon we're going to be hearing about people talking about the Ben Johnson coaching tree. Right.
Yeah.
So it's the price of success. We all knew that this was probably going to happen. I'm not super worried about it right now. I mean, I think that they'll get some quality guys in there, and I'm happy for people getting an opportunity.
Yeah. To me, this is why you want an offensive head coach.
Who calls the plays? Because we like losing the offensive coordinator. It's like, well, I mean, it's Ben's offense.
It's Ben's offense. It's
Yeah.
Ben's team. It's Ben's offense. I think, and I think, yes, number one, this is why you want an offensive head coach, especially when you got a young quarterback, right? That's huge. And we saw some teams this offseason not follow suit, which I think is foolish, but that's a whole nother topic of conversation. And then number two, who's our defensive coordinator? Because as you talked about with that playoff game, our defense stepped the F up when it comes to stopping and slowing down those Rams. And I'm sure you saw the audio of the post-game handshakes, and there was no drama between McVay and Ben Johnson. Let me just point that out as that everybody was talking that one up. But what did you notice? I noticed McVay giving his flowers to Dennis Allen because of how well they played with an inferior defensive roster, mind you.
Yeah.
Schematically alone, Dennis Allen stepped up. Now, why is that important? Well, because Dennis Allen's a veteran coach. He's one of the, back nine of his career type coaches. He's been a head coach. I don't know that he's going to get another shot as a head coach. He may, and if he does, that means he is doing exceptionally well as defensive coordinator, which if we have Ben Johnson doing his thing, two exceptional coaches with an improved roster every year, that means likely Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And Dennis Allen has not gotten a single mention of a head coach interview this whole offseason. So we know that process would take some time. So I go back to hiring an offensive coach, which was obviously the right move, but then the staff that he put together. And we have talked about this all season, Ryan, before the season. One of the main reasons we were so optimistic of our record was because of the coaching staff he assembled.
Yeah.
So there's no coincidences here, but you're right. We will lose coaches, due to the success that we're having, but we can withstand that because Ben is the guy. He is the guy that's going to call the offensive plays. He's going to grow with Caleb and the team, and we've got guys. I'm hoping we don't lose Al Harris. That's the one that I feel like would hurt maybe the most, maybe even more than Randall L. I feel Al Harris would be the most painful, but yeah, our coaching staff. We've already lost. Bieniemy, that was huge. I think that's kind of funny because of how Nagy went down there. I think Bieniemy is. I mean, you can't look at Monungai's season without thinking of Eric Bieniemy.
Oh yeah,
you can't do
for
it.
Sure.
And Swift, I mean, he was very vocal, like basically Swift better put a foot in the ground and get going. Mm-hmm. And Swift had one of his best seasons of his career this year. So Bieniemy is going to be a tough loss. I'm looking forward to seeing who they want to hire. If you guys want to dabble here, I'll take half the price for a running backs coach job if anybody's listening for the Bears. But, I think the biggest thing is going to be this offseason and the players that we acquire and what we do with some of our vets, some of our higher priced vets. That's kind of the question. So I think that's going to be most important because we've got the coaches in place still to do the job. And now it's fielding that team on the field.
Yeah. What you were talking about with Dennis Allen, I think we talked about in the offseason, like you were saying, yeah, we liked the hire because it was like, this is a guy who's not going to be moving on. He's already done it.
Right.
It's not inconceivable that he could be, getting head coaching interviews, but like you said, that would be like probably the Bears coming off close to NFC championship loss or a Super Bowl win or loss. Like if the Bears next year go to the Super Bowl, I will not be surprised if Dennis Allen, is getting people knocking at his door again. But at the same time, maybe maybe this is naive. Maybe he won't want to leave. Like if they go to the Super Bowl and they don't win, he might want to stay, get that ring. Now, if they go to the Super Bowl and they win, maybe he doesn't want to move on, but like, that's a good problem to have. Look, if we're going to lose Dennis Allen because we won the Super Bowl, give me that problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, I could see the defense next year because we're going to talk here about like want list in the offseason, and they could have a big year if they make some big moves. And, then he could be a guy that's in demand again. I think we both agree probably that, we want them to focus on the D line and we want them to get young players in here. We want them to mostly focus, I think, defense in the draft. Now, because of some injuries that happened, probably they have to go O-line too. But that D line is going to be paramount. And I'm going to throw this question at you right now, Brian. So because there's been a couple big names out there, and I'm curious which way you lean. We haven't talked about this at all.
Nope.
If the Bears were to make a splash on the D line, do you have a preference?
Trey Hendrickson.
You would rather pay Trey than trade for Crosby? That's what I was going to ask you. Okay.
To me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense to give, especially with what they're reported to be wanting, 2 firsts. I wouldn't get. I don't think I'd give a single first at this point. We had the same type of conversation with Trey, not me and you, or you and I, but Bears fans did prior to the deadline with Trey Hendrickson.
Mm-hmm.
And people were willing to give up a first or a second or multiple picks for him. And by the way, Hendrickson's sack numbers are far superior to Max Crosby's. Far superior. Now he's a
It's a
little bit
weird
older, but not
yeah,
much older.
I was gonna say it's a weird thing because like when you watch the games, I would say Crosby just is flashier.
Yeah.
Just the way he seems to like visually make more of an impact. But then you're right, like in the numbers, Hendrickson looks superior. Um, yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, look, if they traded for Max Crosby and they got a good deal, I would be thrilled.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
me too. Me too.
absolutely thrilled. Hendrickson seems less risky because you can get him in free agency versus giving up capital because I really want to see the Bears continue to build this thing the right way with young core players that they can
Exactly.
draft. And a lot was written and said about Ryan Poles' drafts in previous years, but his last draft he hit out of the park. And
Oh
some of
God.
that is because of Ben Johnson. A lot of it's probably because of,
Right.
working with Ben Johnson versus not working with him in the past. Obviously Ben's an offensive coach, but Dennis Allen too. So I mean, I hope that they can find some talent in the draft because obviously that's always going to be preferable to having to pay free agents or make trades. But yeah, given where the team is right now, I feel like they're in this window. Obviously, the Super Bowl window is now open. That's for sure the case.
Right.
Given how the season went. Man, if you can continue to get core young players that contribute, that's how you just keep extending that Super Bowl window versus, yeah, you can push your chips in to win now and make a short-term move. You want to win multiple Super Bowls, you have those big drafts. And God, it's weird because when your team is down, you're excited for the draft because you want it to turn around. But I'm super excited for this draft just because I feel like we're so close.
Yeah.
And I'm curious who they're going to bring in.
No, I'm with you. And I'm with you all the way around. Everything you said, I'm with you. The only player that I would like close to as much as Trey Hendrickson would be Jalen Phillips. He would be obviously much younger, more of an athletic specimen, could grow with our team a little bit more. But Hendrickson would be that Julius Peppers type of player, towards the end of his career. He's got some exceptional pass rush ability, and I think he would be just an absolute massive. And I think he'd want to come here too. That's a whole nother topic as well. But then that gives us some flexibility. So I think D-line is where we need to go in the first round, no matter what. No matter what, unless a top tackle falls to us. But even then, I would prefer D-line. And I'm thinking most likely it would be D tackle because typically tackles slide. So you could get a top tackle. So you get Hendrickson in the offseason, then you get a D tackle like Caden McDonald, which a lot of us Bears fans have been talking about over at Windy City. There's some other guys too, though. A lot of good talent on D-line this year. But if a stud defensive end falls to you, like a TJ Parker from Clemson who just tore up the Senior Bowl, I would take him even if I had Trey Hendrickson because you can never have too many pass rushers.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Austin Booker is maybe your third or fourth or fifth defensive end. That is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Remember, Grady Jarrett, we can't get out of his contract this year. He's going to be back in 26. Andrew Billings is gone. We can re-sign him. But we have Javon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, at least. And those are two of our starters.
Yeah.
And the way Jarrett played to end the season, it was encouraging. Give him a full offseason. I'm not saying I would prefer a stud defensive tackle, I think, in the first round with Trey Hendrickson. I would. But if it falls to where we get a stud defensive end and Trey Hendrickson, then that goes to what you're talking about, building through the draft. We can still address defensive tackle later on. Heck, we could maybe even add some more weight to Shamar Turner and get him back inside, right? Like that's another option as well. But as far as the offseason is concerned, we need to have our biggest splash, in my opinion, at edge. I think
Agree.
that's got to happen.
Yeah, it feels like they're a superstar edge rusher away from being a legitimate Super Bowl pick by
Yeah.
by a lot of people. And there's other issues here, obviously, with now we had a ton of issues with injuries this year in the secondary. So I don't on the as far as corners go, I think they probably need to look drafting there. But we had a lot of guys that went down to injury. You're not going to be able to re-sign Nashawn Wright. He's going to get paid somewhere. The Bears cannot commit money to him. I'm glad he had the breakout year that he had,
Me too.
but he's a very boomer bust player, struggles in coverage. I don't want to pay that kind of money to him. We've got guys that can play there. It's really going to be interesting what they do at safety, with Brisker and Byard. I would love to have both of them back. Doesn't seem likely though. If you had to choose one of those guys, Brian, who would you be throwing the money at to bring back?
You've got to go Byard. I
Yeah.
mean, he just had an all-pro season. He's a leader on the team, not
Veteran leadership.
Yeah, you got to go Byard. Although I loved, Brisker had. I'm not looking at it right now, but he had one of his healthiest seasons he's had all his career.
Yeah,
and he loves being a Bear. The Bears feel different when he's out there. But you got to go Byard in that scenario. I'm kind of optimistic that we can retain both of them. The fanboy in me, hopes that the success that we've had entices some of these homegrown players to take less, or even some of these newer players like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He needs to be a priority over Brisker, in my opinion. And a lot of people have been saying he needs to play, maybe to move him to safety, which he has played some.
Yeah,
I don't quite know. I think I'm open to it. I'm definitely open to it. If Al Harris and Dennis Allen think that he could step in for Brisker alongside Byard, and you get Kyler back in there, because we've talked ad nauseum about the chess piece advantage of having Gordon on one slot and CJ on the other, and being able to move them around and play linebacker, safety, nickel, kind of all over. And so that kind of allows them a little bit more flexibility to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm with you. I would like to bring them both back. One of the things, man, that has been toughest for me, just sticking on the defense, because I want to get to the left tackle spot with you as well. I'm a big fan of Tremaine Edmonds. And he has kind of been like the universal, everybody agrees we need to move on from him this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you obviously have an idea of how I feel about that, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think they got to move on. Just because of the salary cap situation. I feel like they got to you got to free up some money. I think if they cut him at something like $15 million, and they're going to need that, especially if you want to go after Hendrickson. I do feel that they really stumbled into something with DeMarco Jackson. Like, he was solid as hell when he played.
Yeah.
Like, best linebacker on the field, solid as hell.
Yeah.
So that was a luxury that we kind of stumbled into through injuries, and he really stepped it up. So, I feel like having DeMarco at linebacker now too makes it more likely that they can feel better about cutting Edmonds. And I think just from a monetary perspective, I just feel like they almost have to do it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I've seen some numbers thrown around, and I think there's some hope that he can get restructured along with DJ Moore that we haven't even talked about, but he's the other one that gets brought up just as much. I'm not a salary cap savant like a lot of our colleagues are over at WCG, but if they can, I think they'd be wise. I think Tremaine never was healthy again when he came back.
Yeah.
But early on in the season, man, he was easily on an all-pro tear with his turnover.
Oh yeah, we were talking about him every week on here, like MVP. He won multiple my game balls this year. Yeah,
and you don't have that same defense the first half of the season without Tremaine. So it's tough because I felt like he really he shone in Dennis Allen's scheme, and it'll be tough to replicate. But you're right, DeMarco absolutely looked the part, and he could make it. He could make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping we can retain him. But there's thoughts. This is a really strong draft for linebackers. There's thoughts that we could maybe keep DeMarco, let go of Tremaine, and pick up a stud. My favorite is Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. This guy, dude, gets his hands on every single pass out there. It seems like he is just a magnet for the ball. It's about 6'3", I think 240, not quite as big as Maine, but just all around the football type of guy. I think he could have impact similar to a Carson Schwessinger that we spoke of on the Browns this year. Who was an early second round pick was Swedgehead. I think Rodriguez is kind of in that same boat. I think he'll be a second round, maybe a third round. I could even see him going first round. I wouldn't want to spend a first round pick on him. I want D tackle, like I said, unless an end falls to us. But yeah, it's going to be tough. And that's what I'm talking about. You look at all these videos from the post game, and that's another point of my highlights. Like, I think the shirtless highlight, which was at the Philly game, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so.
So I feel like that was a highlight, but Tremaine, his post game Chicago, yeah, like he galvanized the team and the city, and he was the leader of that defense. So and you go on the flip side to offense, DJ Moore was arguably one of the biggest leaders of the offense. So we over here as Monday morning quarterbacks can all day say, look at their price tag and how much cap we have and say, this guy needs to go, this guy needs to go. But there's a locker room that Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson are very serious and protective about.
Yeah.
They brought in a Byard intentionally, a Grady Jarrett intentionally, a Joe Tooney intentionally to make this sort of an impact. So now are you going to let these guys go? I don't know. I'm fascinated. Just like you were saying, and I love that you said that. We have been so fixated over the years on the offseason because that's all we have to look forward to for years to get us relevant. Well, now we're relevant. So now we're just a couple pieces away. But if that means we have to cut some pieces to get more pieces, that's a little bit more like a one step forward, two steps back scenario potentially. That's not as fun. But we're in that relevant game now, so at least that's obviously exciting, and which is why you'll be hearing from us some more maybe this offseason. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm curious to hear what you all think about this as well. And I also want to get to DJ, like I just mentioned, and the left tackle spot on offense. So I don't know how you want to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was here. DJ obviously makes a ton of money. And looking at the cap situation, they're gonna have to get creative with restructuring. I think there's some guys on the O line they could restructure to free up some money a little bit. I've seen a lot of people out there, proposing DJ Moore trades, and it's not impossible. At the same time, the contract makes it harder given how much money he has owed to him. The people float that idea though because we are kind of loaded at receiver right now, and then you also got Colston Loveland who can play like a wide receiver from the tight end spot. So it seems like they have a lot of assets there, and that the future is definitely Burden and Rome. And then they got other younger guys who stepped up too. So like Jade Walker. Yeah, I don't really know what's feasible with DJ right now. We'll have to see as we get into the offseason if there is a possible trade market there. But he is a leader on the team, as you mentioned. Once in a while, he's had issues like we saw in the last game where maybe he loafs on some plays a little bit, but he's also a game-changing guy who caught the game-winning pass against Green Bay.
Twice.
Yeah, so another guy too that I've seen people floating as like a cut candidate, which I think is ridiculous, is Cole Kmet. I
Yeah.
don't see them moving on from Cole Kmet. He's a valuable locker room guy. He's been on this team. It's wild. He's 26 and he feels like he's been around forever. You know, like he played in the previous last playoff game in 2020. That's wild.
Yeah.
He's only 26 years old. This is a team that played 12 and 13 personnel all the time. I just don't. I think he's way too valuable to give up. I think Cole's sticking around. I don't know if that's a situation where, you know, potentially there's a restructure or something like that, or extend and restructure. I don't know. I'm not a cap guru like some of our counterparts at Wendy Seagrid are either. But left tackle is a position where I do think they're going to have to draft an O lineman for sure. I think Trapillo, we were very high on. That injury absolutely sucks because it changes the outlook on the O line in the offseason. So I think they're going to have to look at the draft for that position too. What do you think about left tackle?
So if they were to get a draft pick that could start the season for Trapillo, it would have to be a day one pick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they can get a late second rounder. I mean, you could get lucky. Trapillo himself, I don't think was a late pick. I think he was more mid. I can't remember exactly. I think he was actually our third second rounder. So it might have been a little bit later, but he wasn't ready to start the season.
It's a 56th overall pick. Yeah, second round.
So at the end of the second round, but again, he was not ready to start. So if you get a guy end of the second round, if you're lucky, he can start at some point. You're not going to get a guy that can start early, which is where we need him. I think the best solution here is to re-sign Braxton Jones. Re-sign Braxton in a 1-year contract. Give him a healthy contract, not a vet minimum. Give him a healthy 1-year deal. You know, prove it deal. He's healthy finally. Because what was he not last offseason? Healthy.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the offense at this point. He started the opener for us this past year. You know, give him another shot where he's healthy to make himself some money. And shoot, maybe even stick with being a Bear for a longer time. I think Braxton Jones with Theo and Ozzie, run it back. Run it back. Because we haven't had Braxton pretty much all year because of his injury. So run it back. You got Ozzie coming back when he's healthy. That's what I would do. Don't spend too much money there. Because there's not that many tackles available on the market. At least not that I would like, not more than Braxton, who seems like he really wants to be here. You know, he's another one of those guys that's been around a while, even though he's still young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one thing people don't talk about. These young Bears want to win. Like my favorite movie, Nacho Libre. I want to win.
Take it easy, man.
Take it easy. Don't you ever want to get a feel what it tastes like? You want to win. They've been losing for too long.
Yeah.
And now they're winning. So he wants to be here. He sees everybody's been talking about, oh, they've got the quarterback. They've got the coach, right? Like we're going to see, we don't have all the money to spend this offseason, but we're going to see free agents that say, yeah, I want to be with Chicago. I want to be in Chicago. We're going to see that finally. So, you know, I think Braxton's the play there. You know, about DJ, and I'm with you. We got those young receivers. I love Jade Walker. I'm a huge Rome fan. I think Rome is a stud, and Luther is our guy, right? Like, but DJ has earned his spot. Ultimately, I think it'd be best to trade him. I think a team like Buffalo makes a lot of sense. But if we could, if we could end up packaging him in a deal for Max Crosby, bro, I would be happy. I like Max better than Hendrickson, even though Hendrickson's stat numbers are better. I think Max affects the game in the run a little bit more, but and he's younger. So if we can do something like that, then yeah. But man, like DJ has embraced being a Bear. He's been here past couple of years too. He's helped us turn the corner, right? He helped us with Fields turn the corner from a losing team to a winning team, from losing against Green Bay to he literally won against Green Bay twice this year.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be tough. I kind of hope we restructure him as well this year, and then maybe next year, get rid of him. But I don't know, man. It's tough.
Yeah, I've teased. I have a buddy that's a big Raiders fan, and I've sent him a few texts like, "Oh, might need a big time receiver for with that new quarterback. What do you think about DJ out there?" But that would be like ideal if you could get the Raiders to bite on that trade and work it into a Crosby trade. But yeah, I mean, with the receivers, and I saw we had a chat here about how Rome, in the Rams game. I agree. Rome had a terrible game. That drop on the TD on the opening drive was just
crucial.
Yeah, it was terrible. Rome was not the same after his injury. Like the first handful of games of the year, he looked like he was like in the top 10 on every statistical category, looked like every bit of the number one receiver we want him to be. And, then he got hurt and he was just not the same. But like the whole team, and we can actually parlay this into the last topic we have tonight, Brian, because we're almost at an hour. These shows go so fast. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the stadium situation. The Bears struggled so much with drops in that game against the Rams. With Colston, who never dropped the ball all year, multiple drops in that game. Rome dropping a for sure touchdown. For all the talk about bear weather and all this, and yeah, it did look cool on TV. I'm not one of these people. I've seen some people out there saying, "Oh, but God, that game looks so great on TV with the snow. Do we really want to give that up?" I mean, you look at that game, our receivers struggled a hell of a lot more than the Rams did in the cold weather. So I'm not sure about bear weather. I mean, if we catch those balls, we win the game. And our guys who are used to playing and practicing in it didn't seem to cope well, at least catching the ball in that game. The stadium situation has been a huge topic over this last few weeks because obviously the Indiana legislature has been moving quickly to try to lure the Bears across the border. We know the Bears have owned the Arlington Heights property now for several years and have, been trying to get going on that. Then they tease they're moving back downtown again, even though none of us really thought that was a possibility. There's been all the stuff with like the tax rate out in Arlington Heights, and the legislature in Indiana has been offering the Bears just like a crazy deal to move there. Now it's not set in stone yet. I think it's still moving through the legislature. But they basically want to like build the stadium for the Bears and then have the Bears lease the stadium from them for like the next 3 decades, and then they can buy it outright. But I think the Bears would get all the revenue from the stadium. So it's like a crazy sweetheart deal for the Bears. You got to move across the state border. Obviously, there's lots of teams that have done that with like in New York with the Jets and the Giants, of course, and DC playing in Maryland, and hell, where the Super Bowl is. I mean, that's what is it, like 40 or 50 miles from San Francisco to Santa Clara, something like that. So, like it's not unheard of for the team to not play in Illinois. But we know from what's been reported that the McCaskies want to build in Illinois. That's their first choice. There's talk out there that Indiana can make the deal just too hard to pass up. But we also know George is kind of like us. He's kind of a meatball, right? And like, does George really want to be the guy that takes the Bears out of Illinois? I mean, maybe to save $2 billion he does, but I think that weighs on his mind a little bit too. Do you have any preference on this, Brian? We haven't really talked about this either, about like, would you be bummed if they moved to Northwest Indiana? Do you think it's still going to end up in Arlington? Any thoughts on the stadium stuff that's going on right now?
Yeah. To me, if it's not in downtown Chicago, I don't care where it is. It's all the same to me. Arlington Heights, Indiana, it's all the same to me. And that I say that with the understanding that I would prefer them to be in downtown. Mm-hmm. That's where I would prefer personally. As an outsider that's come in, I'll take a dome, even though I'd prefer retractable. I mean, that's another whole topic is how can you not say that there was home field advantage for these teams this offseason? You could say that our receivers had it worse, but I don't think we hold the Rams offense with Matthew Stafford with his finger injury to what we held them to yardage wise. if it's not in those conditions. And so, and that's where I'm thinking is like, if you have, and this is not exactly what you're asking, but if you have any measurable advantage to having a weather stadium with outdoor elements, how can you not at least consider the retractable roof? At least any advantage you should be dialing up. But as far as location is concerned, frankly, I mean, I think I'd prefer Indiana because for me in Western North Carolina, that's a shorter drive.
I thought you might say that.
Yeah, for me to go to the games. So
Yeah.
I don't care. Arlington Heights, Indiana, to me, it's all the same. I'd prefer Chicago. If it's not there, I don't care. And if it's going to be a sweeter deal, a sweeter situation in Indiana, I'll take it. But it's kind of, obviously drawn out and annoying and, a little overwhelming. But yeah, if they make a deal too sweet to pass up, I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, let's be clear here. Neither of us are Illinois taxpayers. So we're not talking about this with the same investment, literally, that some of you are. I live in Eastern Iowa. So for me, Arlington Heights is closer. So I guess my selfish thing would be I like Arlington Heights because it'd be an hour closer to me from going to downtown Chicago. I just think with the Bears as an institution, obviously being in Illinois is ideal. Downtown is just not going to happen at this point. So it's either Arlington Heights or Northwest Indiana. And I they got they own 300 acres plus of land out in Arlington Heights. I think the stadium, from what I heard, would take up about 100 acres of that. I mean, they'll have a ton of space, do cool stuff. It's in a great location with access to the highway and everything. I actually heard the Arlington Heights mayor was on Waddle and Sylvie today, and I listened to that. And, he was talking about he wants Hallis Hall to move out there too, right in the same complex, because they'll have plenty of land to do that, which he said he's talked to him about that. So I guess maybe that's in the discussion as well. I think what it comes down to, the Bears are willing to pay for the stadium themselves. They want help on infrastructure and they want a lower property tax bill because like right now there's something about how the property tax would be like over $100 million, which is like crazy. SoFi Stadium's property tax is like $8 million a year. So like $100 million, you just can't, you can't have that. So they're looking to get a lower property tax rate and they want help building the infrastructure. They'll fund the stadium. Now, I don't want to get too political on here. I will say I don't believe that any public money should go towards stadiums themselves. I think that's ridiculous to have taxpayers subsidizing stadiums for billionaires. Mm-hmm. I think the infrastructure thing, though, is more of a reasonable ask. Look, if you're going to build a $2 billion stadium, you want some help with the infrastructure. It's just going to benefit the community as a whole.
Right.
I think that that's a conversation that the Illinois legislature should be having with the Bears for sure to get this done. And we'll see what happens, but it's interesting because a lot of us thought maybe it's just a leverage play with Indiana, but man, Indiana, I mean, they have ran with it. They're trying to make it happen. So now the pressure is on the Illinois legislature to do something in the next couple of months because I do think the Bears want to be there. I mean, Silverman had that report that Bears want to build an Arlington Heights. That's their number one spot. They want to keep it in Illinois. I think that's ideal for all parties. So I hope that they can get the deal worked out. We can stop talking about this for 3 years and we can get a shovel in the ground and then they can actually build it for the next 3 years.
Right.
But like obviously owning their own stadium would be beneficial to the team and making a lot of money. It'd be a cool place to visit for us as fans to have this whole like Bears Village area. I mean, it'd just be more accessible and getting to the stadium and having all of that all around there. They could build their own Hall of Fame there and all of that. Be super cool. Something, and I think the fact that the team is good now also puts way more pressure on Illinois to make this happen. Like, you don't want to be the legislature or governor that like let the Bears move across the border.
There's no coincidence that Kevin Warren was dropping his news nuggets in the playoff run. Which, again, I'm not trying to get political too. That's what they get paid for, all that nonsense. I think it's too bad. And I love that Indiana's doing it. Indiana's helping this get done.
It's true.
Because of how, it reminds me of, being back in high school, like, kind of being at one of those parties and talking to the prettiest girl on campus. Oh, she's actually not turning me down. All right, I'm gonna up this ante.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask her to prom. I'm gonna do all this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Like do all.
yeah,
All you can to solidify that deal. And I appreciate them, taking that to the next level because it's a great deal.
yeah.
And like you said, other teams do it too outside the state borders, but they do have that land. So I think
Mhm.
ultimately, I think that's the betting play. The odds have to be in favor of Arlington Heights. I
Yeah,
just wish they could salvage the relationship with Chicago, but it's unlikely. Ultimately, I don't really care.
yeah,
I care more about a retractable roof than I do the location. To be honest with you,
yeah. I mean, Arlington Heights is in Cook County at least still, but yeah, you're not gonna have the scenic views close up of the lakefront and the skyline as
yeah,
close at
skyline,
least,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, it's still in Illinois. It's the Chicago Bears. You want it to be there ultimately. Again, I'm glad, I'm glad personally that taxpayer money isn't being used to build the stadium. I'm fully in agreement with people who talk about that. Billionaires should build their own stadiums. But I think infrastructure is a different conversation. And, we'll see what happens. I'm not an expert on it though, too. Like if
right,
someone could convince me otherwise, I'd be open to that. But it's super complicated. Hopefully they can figure out a way to get this thing done and we can move forward with it because we want a winning football team with a nice new stadium. Here's what I do want, Brian. I want a redesign because as we talked about on this
yeah,
show, that first design they came up for Arlington Heights was trash.
yeah,
They need to make this stadium look more unique, something cool like what they
right,
have in Minnesota, not a
right,
cookie cutter Allegiant Stadium copy.
right.
So if they do get a deal done, Illinois legislature, tell them you can, if you agree to do the infrastructure stuff, tell them at least for us to redo the stadium
Yeah,
design because that design was garbage.
it was garbage. It was garbage.
Yeah.
All right,
All
man.
right.
We can't get out of here. Number one, without finishing our drinks, but number two, without some Super Bowl predictions, man. Who do you
Yes.
think's going to win, and what do you think the score is going to be?
Ooh. You know what? I'm rooting for Seattle. Not a Patriots guy. Not a Robert Kraft guy. So I'll be rooting for Seattle. I got to tell you though, man, I am not very interested in this Super Bowl. It is. I haven't been this disinterested in quite some time, and we could have had a longer conversation about this. Everything that I feel kind of hypocritical saying this because the Bears were getting the comments about their easy schedule early in the year. I mean, New England had a pretty easy walk to the Super Bowl, if we're being
The
honest
the
here.
easiest, the easiest.
Ever. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. And at the same time, on the other side, you got Seattle, who, it's Sam Darnold, but he's made a second run at having a relevant career here, starting in Minnesota, and he's had they have a good defense like we talked about before, and I don't know. I'm not like super interested in either franchise, so I guess I'm rooting for Seattle. I tend to usually root for the NFC teams unless it's the Packers. So I'm rooting for Seattle. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go 27-14 Seattle. No, 27-17. 27-17. I'll call it a 10 point.
So, all right. So we agree on the 17. I'm going to go 33 with Seattle. 33-17 Seattle.
Okay.
I'm kind of
And
with you.
you're with me on the interest level in the game?
I think I'm not with you on there. I'm
Okay.
not far behind you. I'm not as interested in this as I've been in most others, but I do find interest in a first year head coach in Mike Vrabel,
Mm-hmm.
a second year quarterback like Caleb Williams and Drake May. They chose to get their left tackle with their first round pick, Will Campbell. They spent big money on a defensive tackle that played for the Super Bowl champions last year in Milton Williams. I'm really high on Christian Gonzalez, although I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is a better player. And I think he'll win that matchup out of his savviness and route running prowess. To me, it comes down to Sam Darnold, bro, which that's a whole nother story. Like the fact that he has been, he obviously was drafted high and then just run out of town. And then Minnesota, Minnesota's GM just got fired because of how he mishandled Sam Darnold, basically.
Yeah.
And so that story fascinates me. But one thing is clear, though, if you can get to him, then he will make mistakes. So if that pass rush for the Patriots can break that levee, then it could be dangerous. But I'm looking for big games from Kenneth Walker, the running back for the Seahawks. Obviously, I'm a running back. Obviously, it's not a surprise there. And Travion Henderson, running back for the Patriots. I think he could keep them in this game. I like Drake May. I think the hype on him is a little bit overblown, personally.
Yeah.
He's kind of come back down to earth in these playoffs. He's not looked that great. He's kind of resorted to his physical abilities versus his intellectual and technical abilities. I'm a huge Drake May fan. I think he's a stud quarterback, one of the faces of the league right now. But I think that Seattle defense is just too nasty, man. Those D tackles for Seattle, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, they just got ballers all over the place. Nick Emanuari, the safety, he's going to be problematic for that Patriots team. But I'm telling you, man, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Last show of the season. Running backs are the best athletes on the field. And both these teams have some awesome running backs.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson is kind of an afterthought, but he's had a great year. I like Ramondre. But Travion Henderson is a game breaker. Kenneth Walker is a game breaker. I think either one of those guys can turn the tide for this game. And so with that said, my interest level is about it. I mean, think about it. We've had the Patriots, the past 15 years. We've had the Chiefs, right? Like my interest level with those games was not as high.
Mm-hmm.
This game, first year head coach, the Seahawks, for goodness sakes, Mike McDonald he's not been there a while. He's a defensive coach that figured it out.
I'm
higher.
I think I was more interested in some of those other Super Bowls, though, just because of the star power of some of the guys there, even though it was like the same teams over and over. I mean, look, they might win it. I'm still not that big of a believer in the Patriots. I just think they had kind of like the perfect scenario this year with the schedule, and then Bo Nix getting injured. Like, I think the Broncos win that game if Bo Nix didn't.
Oh, I agree. I agree
for sure.
But it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. That's why it's any given Sunday, and all you got to do is get to the Super Bowl. Drake May is good enough to win it if it's on the line. The problem is for Seattle is they can't let it be on the line late.
I don't know if the Bears would have been able to beat Seattle in Seattle or not. It would have been a hell of a game. I mean, it's possible.
Right.
That would have been a tougher game, in my opinion. If the Bears pulled out the game against the Rams and they somehow beat Seattle and got to this game, I would have been very confident picking the Bears over the Patriots. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I would not fear the Patriots at all. I would be like, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But the Seattle game would have been the harder pick for me. That would have been a super tough game. I wish so much we had that chance, and we should have had the chance.
No, it's all good.
God, but
on time.
I don't know, man. I'm just not you've made me more interested in the game than I was going and just listening to you talk about it. I think I've just been kind of down on it as a whole, like not that hyped to watch it. Yeah.
I'm glad I have.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. We'll probably talk about it at our next show.
So before we leave, I've mentioned this multiple times this year. Maybe it was off air with you, but Super Bowl Sunday also coincides with something around these parts called Stout Hog Day. You remember?
Yeah, I think you talked to me about that. That brewery makes a bunch of different stouts, right?
Not just stouts, all dark beers, everything from browns to porters to nitros, you name it. So they've got probably about, I don't know, 15 to 20 taps, and 15 of them roughly, so 75% ish, are all of their dark beers, all the ones they ever make. And then roughly 5 of them ish are their favorite guest dark beers. Opens at 11 a.m. on Super Bowl Sunday. The brewers themselves cook pancakes that are free until supplies run out. I'll just say this. I've never stayed long enough for supplies to run out. Because I can't stand longer than two flights of beers. So 8 mini beers.
Yeah.
Of different dark beers before they all start tasting the same for me. But they're so good. And with pancakes and syrup, and you can pay like a food truck for some bacon and sausage and eggs and stuff. But it is my favorite thing to do, bro. And guess what, man? We got babysitters this year.
Nice.
So my wife and I are going this Sunday with some friends. I am going to be tagging you and Bears Over Beers. I'm sure I'll be, I don't know how many deep, but there are going to be some good beers had. It's one of my favorite breweries. So that
That's awesome.
Valdez coffee stout, if you remember,
Yeah.
that's the place. So I'm sure I'm going to I don't even know if I'll get that in a sample because they have so many other ones to choose from, but I'll probably come away with some. But another thing I want to mention is my wife and I are doing a 30-day detox starting Monday.
After, yes, of course. Nice.
So 30 days, no alcohol, no coffee, no allergens, no cheese or dairy. I mean, it's heavy. No gluten. We used to do it once a year, sometimes twice a year. Haven't done it in a little bit, but my wife is like, "You're more inflamed now than you've been. The show, you're drinking more now than you've ever because of the show.
This damn show."
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably do the cleanse with the beer. I don't know if I could do coffee for a month though.
Coffee is the most difficult. So you replace it with a herbal tea, and you can add some caffeine to it. So it does work, but it is the most difficult. The coffee is the most difficult. Cheese is actually the next most difficult. Alcohol is after those two for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be doing that next week.
Okay.
So yeah, so if we do another Bears Over Beers, I'll have one of my favorite non-alcoholic, which is fine. We do we approve of all that.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you guys listening. But cool thing is, man, I think this is our longest show of the year.
It is. Hey, we had some catching up to do. It's been a few weeks. So
it has been a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys stay tuned because we'll be doing some fun stuff in the off season. Like we said, appreciate all you who've been tuning in this year and enjoying the show. It's been really cool to hear from all of you. Love when we get feedback because, sometimes when you do a podcast, it feels like you're speaking into the void. So when we hear from you, it makes it all worth it. So we really appreciate that.
And if you guys have guests that you would like to see on the show, we want to be more intentional with our guests next season. We did that a little bit this year, but it was our first year.
Yeah.
So we were just, loving hanging out with each other, and we still do, but it's cool to get different perspectives in here. So, if you guys have anyone that you have in mind that you think would be great, some of your personalities, I think Kyle Long would be fun. So, do us a favor and tag Kyle Long and us in all the tweets. We'll get him on next year. But people like that, or anyone, any personality, or any local, brewer or what have you, Arlington Heights, Gary, Indiana, wherever it might be. But we had fun with you guys. You have a great off season. We'll be around. Congrats on this off season, and absolutely an eternal cheers from us at Bears Over Beers.
Yes, cheers. Thank you, everybody. We'll be talking to you all again real soon, so stay tuned to the channel, and we'll be coming at you again before too long. Until then, bear down and take care.
Bear down.